Welcome to the East Africa's Great, a premier business and technology university of choice. This is KCA University.
Years under Kenya's education system, one moment determined the future of dozens of students, the release of national examination results. Students, parents, and teachers across the country would wait anxiously for the announcement from the Kenya National Examination Council. In the past, candidates could simply send their index number through SMS and instantly receive their results on any phone. But recently, that system changed. Results are now released through an online portal where candidates must access a link to view the results. To many, this looked like a step toward digital progress, but for others, it raised serious questions. Tonight, we examine how the media reported this change and how Kenyans actually reacted.
Candidate examination results will be accessed online through a secure link on the NEC website or directly through the following website: https://results.nec.ac.ke. Candidates will be required to enter the candidate's index number and any one of the names as per the registration data be available immediately after the end of this function.
While the media celebrated a digital upgrade, many Kenyans began asking a different question. Was the system ready for everyone? Because while many students today use smartphones, a large number of families still rely on basic mobile phones. For years, the SMS system allowed even students in remote villages to check their results instantly. With the new system, however, access now depends on internet connectivity and digital devices.
And this raises an important question. What happens to students in remote counties like Marsabit? In many rural areas, internet access is limited and smartphones are not always available. For some families, checking exam results now means traveling to a town cyber cafe or relying on someone with internet access. So while the system may appear modern, many Kenyans feel it may have unintentionally excluded those on the wrong side of the digital divide.
And just when thousands of students rushed online to check their results, another problem emerged. The website itself began experiencing technical difficulties, with thousands of users attempting to access the portal. At the same time, the system slowed down and in some cases completely crashed.
Experienced a technical glitch with candidates unable to access their 2025 Kenya Certificate of Secondary School examination results for hours. The system failure angered a number of not only candidates, but Kenyans on social media, most of them blasting the examination council over what they termed a complete incompetence.
As opposed to what has been the norm for decades, candidates getting to know their fate through a short SMS code, the Kenya National Examinations Council this year took a different approach, instead directing candidates to access their results via the council's website, a move said to be motivated by technological advancements. Despite Education CS Julius Sagamba noting that the results will be available immediately after their release on the NEC portal, 4 hours after he officially released the results, thousands of candidates still did not know their fate amid concerns over system failure.
As a move toward digital efficiency quickly revealed a deeper challenge. While technology can improve systems, it can also widen the gap between those who have access and those who do not. For students in major cities, checking results online may be simple. But for others in rural countries like Marsabit, the journey to access the same information can be much longer. The question now is whether the Kenya's education system can embrace digital progress without leaving some students behind. Because when it comes to education access, should never depend on where you live or the type of phone you own. For many years, students were assessed using a familiar scale, grade A representing the highest performance and grade E the lowest. It was a system that both parents and students understood. But that system has now changed. Under the new grading system, The traditional A to E system has been replaced with a more detailed classification. Instead of simply ranking students from A to E, the new system includes levels such as exceeding expectation and other categories designed to measure competency more specifically. Education officials say the change is meant to give a clear picture of a student's abilities rather than focusing only on exam scores.
Jamhuri Day, a day after the Ministry of Education released the inaugural Kenya Junior School Education Assessment results, confusion is mounting among parents and candidates nationwide over the new bizarre grading system. The new competency-based education grading structure, which is built on an 8-level performance scale, has left many parents and candidates struggling to interpret what the scores actually mean and how they will impact the upcoming placement to senior school. And as Emily Chebet reports, the many E's on the results are causing more confusion.
At Kari Comprehensive School in Kisii County, dozens of parents who are accompanied by their children who sat the Pioneer Grade 9 assessment have turned up at school despite being a holiday, seeking clarity on the results they just received. It is a first cohort under the competency-based education to receive this new style of grading, and for many families, the shift is proving difficult to understand amid little or no sensitization.
Hii system utapata vizuri, hata mimi mwenyewe nilio naeleza sijapata vizuri. Sasa vile tuko na walimu hapa watatuelezea, hiyo utajua vizuri hiyo inamaanisha nini.
Shown in the footage reveals a clear difference between how the media presented the new grading system and how the public understood it. While media reports mostly framed the reforms as a positive step toward improving how students are assessed, many parents and students expressed confusion about the new categories such as exceeding expectation, especially since they were used to a simple A to E grading scale. This contrast shows that although the reforms may aim to improve education, the changes have not been fully understood by the public, highlighting the needs for clear communication so that everyone can better understand how the new system affects students' performance and future opportunities. For more than 3 decades, Kenya's education system was defined by one structure, the 844 system, introduced in 1985. It guided generations of students through 8 years of primary school, 4 years of secondary school, and 4 years at the university level. For nearly 37 years, it shaped how millions of Kenyan students learned, were examined, and prepared for their future. But in recent years, the country began moving away from this familiar system. In its place came the competency-based curriculum, or CBC, a new approach designed to focus less on memorizing content and more on developing practical skills, creativity, and talents among learners. The transition marked one of the most significant educational reforms in Kenya's history.
Proposing that students transitioning to join to junior secondary school under the competency-based curriculum study in day schools and not in boarding schools. While in a discussion online, the government spokesperson who engaged key players in the education sector stated that this group of pupils will be hosted in junior secondary schools domiciled in existing secondary schools and not primary schools. Leila Mohammed has those details coming on the backdrop of fears of how schools will manage the huge numbers expected in the institutions come January 2023.
Okay. So continue doing the work.
As the new academic year takes off with 2 major national exams expected later in the year, focus now shifts on January 2023, where about 2.4 million pupils will transition from primary level into secondary school. The huge numbers and the capacity of the schools involved to host them has been a matter of concern to many parents.
The government argued that the new curriculum would better prepare students for modern world by focusing on skills and competencies rather than purely exam performance. The transition began gradually in 2017 with new cohorts of learners entering the CBC systems, while the 844 system continued to be phased out. Under CBC, The structure of education changed to 26333, introducing new stages such as junior secondary and pathways that allow students to specialize in different fields.
From grade 6 to 7 will be in such a way that students transit to schools that are within where they are now in school. Therefore, the capacity for boarding may not be necessary at the junior secondary level.
Transition from the 844 system to CBC revealed a clear divide between policy intention and public perception. While the government and many media reports presented reforms as a progressive step toward skill-based learning in modern education, reaction from teachers, parents, and political leaders showed uncertainty about its implementation and preparedness. Concerns about infrastructure, teachers' training, and the overall understanding of the system highlighted the challenges of introducing such a major reform. Ultimately, the shift to CBC reflects not only an attempt to transform education in Kenya, but also the complex reality that large national reforms often brings both hope for improvement and significant public debate. When Kenya introduced the competency-based curriculum, it was presented as a bold reform designed to transform education, shifting learning away from memorization and towards creativity, practical skills, and talent development. But as the new system began to shape in classrooms across the country, another conversation started to emerge: the cost of implementing CBC. Parents, teachers, and schools administrators began raising concern about the increasing financial demands linked to projects, learning materials, and new classroom requirements. For many families, what was meant to be an educational reform quickly became an economic challenge. Across the countries, questions started to grow: is CBC becoming too expensive for ordinary Kenyans families?
In the world of education, and as teachers and parents continue to seek ways to work around the competency-based curriculum, concerns are being raised over how much parent involvement is required. A good number of parents have raised concern that CBC is too demanding in terms of their physical involvement, as well as the financial burden that comes with catering for the CBC activities and buying of books. Some parents have complained that getting time to be physically present and to help with homework is almost impossible.
The reaction captured in these reports reveal growing concern among many parents about the financial burden associated with CBC projects. While the curriculum aims to promote hands-on learning and creativity, the requirement for materials and project resources has made some families feel that the system is becoming increasingly expensive.
Mtoto akifungua unaona ameandikiwa textbook kama 5 ununue. Ukienda kwa duka unapata ni expensive. Ukinunua hiyo kitabu, hiyo mtoto atatumia once. Juu anafanyia homework yake hapo. Imeachwa space, anajaza kwa hiyo kitabu. So hata akimalizana nayo, haitatumika na mtoto mwingine. Sasa hapo inakuwa ngumu, pia hata unanunua tu mbili, hizo zingine unalemewa kununua. Juu bei iko juu.
This situation highlights the challenge of balancing educational reform with economic realities, especially in a country where many households already face financial pressure. Ultimately, while CBC seeks to modernize education and nurture the talents among learners, its long-term success may depend on how effectively these cost concerns are addressed so that the system remains accessible and inclusive for all students. Kenya's education reforms are changing how students learn and how students operate across the country. While the policies promise a better and more modern education system, the implementation has not been without challenges. Behind the headlines and policy announcements, many schools, teachers, and students are still struggling to adapt to the new demands.